Call to order the regular meeting for Plymouth Township Council for March 13th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just two announcements to start real quick. An executive session was held on February 13th, 2023, and an executive session was also held on March 6th, 2023. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our workshop meeting on February 6th and our regular meeting on February 13th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Approval of departmental reports and bills. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Bandish, second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Chair votes in favor. Moving down to Police and Public Safety. Chief, anything tonight?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Moving down to Public Works and Sewer, we have our final snow announcement for this brutal winter we've had. And Ms. Bramblett will read that snow announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Winter season reminders. It is unlawful to park or abandon a car on any street within 12 hours after a snowfall of 3 inches or more. Vehicles will be towed at the owner's expense. Use of off-street parking when snow is predicted. When you park your car in the driveway, there's less snow to shovel. On-street parking. Only where no off-street parking is available is only permitted on the even-numbered side of the street in even-numbered years and on the odd-numbered side of the street in odd years. Never approach moving snow removal equipment. Just because you can see the driver doesn't mean he can see you. We try to keep our crews fresh and rested, but extended weather emergencies can mean long hours for township employees. Please keep children and pets off the streets. Property owners are required to clear their sidewalks at least 30 inches wide within 36 hours after the snow stops. When shoveling your driveway, pile snow to the right. This will prevent the plow from covering your driveway opening again. Don't shovel or plow snow into the street. The plows will just move it back onto your driveway or sidewalk. If the plow has already passed, do not put snow from your driveway into the street. It will refreeze and create a hazard. If there's a fire hydrant by your home, consider adopting it. You know where it is. If it's obscured by snow, fire companies responding to emergencies may not find it. Clearing the snow from around the hydrant helps protect you and your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bramblett. Engineering, Mr. Manai, anything tonight?
No, sir.
Thank you. Moving down to subdivision and land development plans that are currently under review. The first one is for Conacelli Autoplex, 1208 Ridge Pike. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. Be it resolved that Plymouth Township Council does hereby approve the land development plan prepared by Ludgate Engineering Corporation for Conacelli Hyundai, dated January 17, 2022, last revised October 3, 2022, consisting of sheets number 1 through 16, proposing to construct an 1,800 square foot service canopy at a 15,225 square foot addition to the existing building owned by Conacelli Realty LLP for a property located at 1208 Ridge Pike, land development application 22-2, in accordance with said plans under and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner-developer shall execute a public improvement agreement and memorandum of public improvement agreement as required by the subdivision and land development ordinance and pay all applicable fees and assessments, including but not limited to the following. A, impact fee for transportation capital improvements under ordinance number 1426 of 2004, as amended, said impact fee in the amount of $45,040.05 as determined by Carroll Engineering Corporation. A recreation fee of $15,253.13 based on 13,514 square feet of new building. C, sanitary and storm sewer outfall fees in the amount of $7,000 based on 13,514 square feet of new impervious coverage. D, sewer connection fee to be paid in accordance with the fee and schedule in effect at the time of payment. 2, the owner-developer shall prepare revised plans as set forth in the October 21st, 2022 review letter of McCloskey and Faber, P.C., the Township Landscape Architect, attached to this resolution, except to the extent that waivers are granted herein, to the satisfaction and approval of the Township Landscape Architect. 3, that the owner-developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the November 3rd, 2022 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township Traffic Engineer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the said traffic engineer. 4, that the owner-developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the November 3rd, 2022 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township Sanitary Sewer Engineer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the said sanitary sewer engineer. 5, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the August 2nd, 2022 report of Woodrow and Associates, the Township Engineer, attached to this resolution, except to the extent that waivers are granted herein, to the satisfaction and approval of the said Township Engineer. 6, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the March 2nd, 2023 report of Joel Rowe, zoning officer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of said zoning officer. 7, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the February 1st, 2023 report of Suburban Lighting Consultants, the Township Lighting Consultant, to the satisfaction and approval of the said consultant. That the owner-developer shall obtain all required permits and approvals from the Sewer Authority, a DEP sewage facility planning module waiver, the water company with jurisdiction over the property, and a highway occupancy permit from Plymouth Township, and a highway occupancy permit from Montgomery County, if any is needed. 9, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the March 1st, 2023 report of the Planning Agency and the May 10th, 2022 report of the Montgomery County Planning Commission, each attached to the resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the aforesaid Township Zoning Officer. 10, that the owner-developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to list all waivers granted and notes required by this resolution. 11, prior to the issuance of any permits, all outstanding legal, engineering, and administrative fees applicable to this land development must be paid by the owner-developer. 12, this approval is subject to the fulfillment of all the foregoing conditions in their entirety, and no permit shall be issued, nor shall any development take place on the property unless and until all such conditions are fulfilled. Further resolved that the owner-developer shall be granted the following waiver from the terms of the Plymouth Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance of 1980 as amended. A, Article 5, Section 518, from the landscaping requirements, granted subject to the compliance with McCloskey and Faber's October 21st, 2022 review letter. Duly presented and adopted by Plymouth Township Council at a public hearing held on the 13th day of March, 2023, Plymouth Township, by Christopher G. Monero, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve this land development plan?
So moved.
A motion from Ms. Bramlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council? I just had one question. In the resolution in our books, it says 1200 Ridge Pike.
Yes, I already made a note.
Okay, thanks. Any,
I think you already sent it. It's okay, the books went out. Remember?
any additional questions from council? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Next item is an extension request for 906 Ridge Pike Royal Farms. Mr. Whitney.
All right. I have a request for an extension to May 1st in regards to the application on 906 Ridge Pike. I would make a motion that we accept this extension to May 1st, 2023.
There's a motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Vizio. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Next, we'll move down to conditionally approved projects not yet recorded. We have an extension request for the Andrews Estate at 1817 Hallowell Road. That is a request for an extension to June 13th, 2023. I'll make a motion that we approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Projects currently under construction. We have one escrow release for Cold Point Village Station. Ms. Vizio.
Mr. Chair, I have a letter from Mr. Timothy Woodrow with regard to the Cold Point Station Village, Cold Point Village Station around escrow release number 4. It's been found that sufficient work was completed at the supposed project, of the reference project, to release the amount of $95,618.88, and I make a motion that we release that amount.
There's a motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor?
And the chair votes in favor. Moving down to code enforcement, we have an opposition to a building code appeal. Ms. Bramblett.
Thank you. This is an application for appeal from a decision of the Code Enforcement Department, an appeal from interpretation of the International Fire Code, IFC, Section 507.5.1. The basis for the appeal is that the true intent of the code was incorrectly interpreted according to the applicant, that the provisions of the code do not fully apply according to the applicant, and that an equivalent or better method of construction is proposed by sprinklering the dwellings. I make a motion that we authorize our solicitor to attend this appeal in opposition.
Okay, there's a motion from Ms. Bramblett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Moving down to zoning, our zoning hearing scheduled for this month. Ms. Bramblett, I'm sorry, Ms. Bandish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Zoning Hearing Board of Plymouth Township will hold a public hearing on Monday, March 20th, 2023, commencing at 7 p.m. in the Greater Plymouth Community Center at right here, 2910 Jolly Road. Following applications will be heard. The Gracing School on an application for special exception and variance from Plymouth Township Zoning Ordinance Number 342 is amended in Article 14, Section 1402-D and Section 1400. Special exception and variance requested are as follows. The applicant's proposed use of the property for a non-profit private school is of the same general character as a daycare or nursery use and is therefore permitted by special exception. In the alternative, applicant requests a variance to allow the proposed nonprofit school for pre-K through 12th grades for gifted students. The property is located at 1 Innovation Drive in a limited industrial zoning district. Brixmore Plymouth Square LLC Pet Supplies Plus on an application for variance from Plymouth Township Ordinance, Zoning Ordinance Number 342 is amended, Article 1601 D2C. The variance requested is as follows. Install one illuminated wall sign for Pet Supplies Plus for a total of 178.73 square feet, where 2 square feet of sign area for each lineal foot of front building wall to a maximum of 120 square feet is allowed. Property is located at 200 Ridge Pike, Suite 121 in Shopping Center Zoning District. Third, Damian and Maria O'Halloran on an application for variance from Plymouth Township Zoning Ordinance Number 342 as amended in Article 7, Section 702.f. The variance requested is as follows. Allow an increase of 2% impervious coverage on an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The property is located at 121 Kirk Street in a C residential zoning district. And last, John and Jody Miller on an application for variances from Plymouth Township Zoning Ordinance Number 342 as amended, Article 3, Section 302.b, and Article 21, Section 2108. The variances requested are as follows. Reduce front yard setback from 35 feet to 15 feet, and to extend variance expiration date from 1 to 3 years. The property is located at 2516 Butler Pike in a B residential zoning district. Any citizen of Plymouth Township or interested party may attend the public hearing and have an opportunity to be heard.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bandish. Next item on the agenda is an opposition for zoning. Ms. Bandish?
Yes, the statement we have here, a zoning hearing board opposition to a special exception for application number 2 of Priya. The township has received a special exception application from the Pennsylvania Real Estate Trust, otherwise known as Priya, to permit apartment development at the Plymouth Meeting Wall beyond, and in a way that differs from the specific manner in which council has permitted apartment development at the mall within the zoning ordinance. In consideration of consistency with council's own intent for its ordinance and the pending litigation related to the zoning board's denial of Priya's previous application for the same use, I would recommend that we authorize the solicitor to attend the zoning hearing and oppose the requested relief.
Okay, there's a motion.
And then there's a motion. I move that Plymouth Township Council authorize its solicitor to attend any and all zoning hearing board sessions regarding the March 1st, 2023 special exception application of the Pennsylvania Real Estate Investment Trust and oppose the requested special exception and any other relief requested to permit apartment development at the Plymouth Meeting Mall beyond or in any way that differs from the specific manner in which council has permitted apartment development at the mall within the zoning ordinance.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on you there. You had a second page. There is a motion from Ms. from Ms. Bandish for this opposition. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Ms. Vicio. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Moving down to Parks and Recreation, we have some upcoming events to announce. Mr. Whitney.
All right. Upcoming for March and beyond for our Parks and Rec department, the spring brochure will be out March 16th. Greater Plymouth Community Center will have 10% off from March 20th to March 26th. Camp registration is currently ongoing. If you are interested in getting a veteran banner at Greater Plymouth Community Center Park, the deadline for that is April 1st. There will be a community yard sale with Whitpain Township on Saturday, May 6th at MCCC, at Mako Community College. Save the date. Plymouth Township Day will be on Saturday, June 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. Whitney. Next for Parks and Rec, we have a bill of sale, and I will hand that one over to Ms. Vicio.
Mr. Chair, for this bill of sale, know all persons by these presents that Plymouth Township, a home rule municipality, hereinafter referred to as seller, for and in consideration of the sum of $762 to seller in hand, paid by Daniel Boyle, 907 Baltimore Pike, Chadds Ford, PA, 19317, hereinafter called the buyer, by credit card at or before the sealing and delivery of these presents, the receipt whereof is hereby acknowledged as granted, bargained, sold, and delivered, and by these presents does grant, bargain, sell, and deliver unto the said buyer and buyer's successors and assigns, all in singular, the following personal equipment listed as the following pieces: a crunch bench, a leg press, a squat press, chin up, bench up, shoulder press, mid-row, and dip. Buyer agrees that it shall purchase and acquire title to the equipment in as-is condition, and the buyer acknowledges that seller makes no express warranties or implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. To have and to hold the said equipment unto the said buyer, its successors, and assigns to and for its own proper use, benefit, and forever. And the said seller, its successors, assign and assigns, does unto the said buyer and its successors, and assigns from and against all persons whomsoever shall and will warrant and forever defend by these presents. And the buyer, by its acceptance of the equipment, does hereby agree to release and discharge seller and its appointed and elected officials, employees, agents, and other representatives, and their heirs, executors, administrators, successors, and assigns from any and all claims, causes of action, suits, death, and/or damages arising from any and all personal injuries and/or property damages sustained by buyer and its appointed and elected officials, employees, agents, and other representatives, and their heirs, executors, administrators, successors, and assigns, and caused by the equipment or its use from and after the date of this bill of sale. And the buyer, by its acceptance of the equipment, is hereby granted to indemnify and hold harmless the seller, its elected and appointed officials and employees against any claim or award of damages or costs, including court costs and attorney fees, made against the seller by reason of any damages, including personal injuries and property damages caused by the equipment and after the date of this bill of sale. Whereof we have hereunto set our hands and seals the 13th day of March 2023 by Cambridge Township, Christopher Manero, Chairman.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the bill of sale?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vizio, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor?
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Moving down to miscellaneous and old business, we have some citizen board vacancy announcements. Ms. Bandish.
And we have such a nice group of people here to hear about them. So if you'd like to volunteer, we'd like to have you. Citizen board vacancy. All residents wishing to serve on these citizen boards are asked to submit their resume or a letter stating their interest to the township manager at 700 Belvoir Road in Plymouth Meeting, or via email to kweiss@plymouthtownship.org. Following citizen board positions are open. The Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board, there are 3 positions open. The Historical Architectural Review Board, there's 1 position open. The Environmental Advisory Board, the Human Relations Commission, the Parks, Recreation, and Shade Tree Advisory Board, and the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Bandish. And I would like to make a motion that we make an appointment to the opening for the Environmental Advisory Board. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Maria Weidinger to fill the open position on the Environmental Advisory Board. Is there a second?
Second?
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor?
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Any additional items from council not on the agenda? At this time, we will offer any audience participation. And again, we just ask that you approach the front, somewhere in that front row, and state your name, please, and if you're a Plymouth Township resident.
Carol Bethlehem, 519 Old Elm Street, Plymouth Township. I was wondering how you're making out with the stop sign on New Elm Street.
Anybody care to offer an update?
Actually, I just got communication from our traffic engineer about a week ago. They've been very aggressive pursuing it, which has been nice. They've been on top of it. They were in communication with PennDOT, and they said they hope to get to it within the next couple of weeks. That was a week ago. So the traffic engineer has been communicating with us, so I'm confident that he'll let us know
Thank you.
any progress.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a handicap parking spot. I've had trouble parking in between the two blue lines. People are parking over the lines. I had to sell my truck and buy a little car so I could park. This past weekend was the roughest. I couldn't even park, I couldn't even get into it. Is there any way that Chris could paint the blue lines again? People say they don't see the lines, they're there. Or what can I do about it?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from an enforcement point of view, if you just call us, we can handle that, but I
I'm
can
not
also...
allowed to call the police.
Why's that?
I will tell you in private.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you can call me directly if you'd like.
Okay.
All right. And then
I don't want to say it in public when
Well,
I'm
we'll
sick.
talk about that out there, though. But we can handle the enforcement of it. And I know that Chris does go out there and refreshes the lines. I'll be happy to pass on to him that you need it enlarged a little bit and refreshed. So.
Yeah, I know the weather's been bad. And he's a heck of a guy. Whenever you call him, he comes right out. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Beth. Additional audience participation?
My name's Adam Schultz. I live on 104 Valley Creek Road. I've been here 2 other times about the speaker the Little League installed behind my house and behind the whole neighborhood. It's just too loud. I'm wondering where we are with it. I got a petition. I went around the neighborhood and I had over 100 signatures, 120 signatures saying we need to take it down because it's just too loud for our neighborhood. I handed a petition. I just want to know what's going to happen.
So, actually, since I guess last month you were here, correct?
was here last
February. So Phil Brady, our Parks and Rec director, and I have been in pretty consistent communication with the Little League. Just to backtrack. So last year,
Last year they put it up in July.
right.
this
So
year.
right. So last year when we spoke, I went out at the end of the summer when it was going on, and with one of their volunteers, and we walked by, and I confirmed
It was loud.
that it was loud, and certainly spilling over in a way that it wasn't designed to do. So I think that all parties were in agreement that the speaker wasn't functioning correctly, and that it needed to be addressed. So of course,
Nothing was done.
let me finish, please.
Okay.
So that was the end of the summer. That was the end of their season. That was really kind of probably the last week they were using it. So since then, they had kind of come up with a plan to, first of all, replace the speaker, which they had just purchased last year, which was not functioning correctly, and then to, I guess, realign and replace them. Now I know that they're. I don't want to say anything incorrect. I do have some emails in front of me here, but I'll let them speak for themselves exactly what their plans are on that part. But their plan is to address where the speaker was, to address the malfunctioning speaker, and then to test it before they use it to make sure that the sound isn't spilling over like it was last summer. They've actually made several recognitions of it, and several volunteers have been, I guess, kind of involved in trying to figure out the best way to do this. So they've just now kind of reconvened for the spring with their volunteers. So I guess their next step, their next plan, once the speaker is fixed, is to test it to make sure that it's more effective than last year. But I can say definitively that they are working on fixing the situation
Where
we
they
had
plan on
that we
putting
had
this?
last year.
Where they plan on putting
Well,
this?
that I'm going to I'll let them speak for exactly what their plans are for location and repair. I know that there are representatives from the Little League here. I'm not making them come and speak, but if they'd like to answer any specific questions that we have, I'd be more than happy when you're finished. Do you have any other specific questions for me?
There's a petition.
Thank you. And I would
It's
say
over 120
yeah,
people that
and I-
signed.
and I-
They said it's too loud.
Yeah, and I would say too that again, I don't think we have any disagreement on that it was too loud last summer. Personally, I think that I know that they don't use it all summer. They use it really for special events, all-star tournament, end of the season things. I'd like to think that we can all come to sort of a common solution here where all parties are happy. Certainly, we have the Little League is a essential part of that park and our community. I'm just.
Don't get me wrong, I love the
I know.
I really do. I love listening to them hit the ball with the bat. I love the cheer. I love everything.
Mr. Schilt, can
But
I
when
just
they have
please?
the radio
Can I,
playing,
Mr.
it's
Schilt?
too
Can
much.
I please finish my thoughts? So it's certainly, the additions of the announcing of the names and the music, it makes it special for kids. And one of the things that, we could easily say is no speakers. We could say no announcing of names. We could say none of that. But, in my many years' experience in youth sports, one of the things that not every kid gets in sports is those special experiences. We have a lot of kids in this community whose parents are fortunate to pay lots and lots of money for their kids to go to Aberdeen, Maryland, and to go down here and go there and go there, and it's ungodly the amount that kids spend. So the more that we can do here to provide that experience for everybody, whether they can or cannot afford it, I think we owe it to them, and our Little League does, to make the experience special. However, with that being said, it also has to be done in a way that doesn't disturb the neighborhood, in a way that we can make the special experience with the kids also match the rights that the neighbors have to live peacefully in a great neighborhood. So I think we're all working towards finding that solution to something that works and something that fixes the specific issues that we experienced last summer.
So,
Thanks, Chris. Rich Connolly on Valley Creek Road, a neighbor of Adams. Very encouraged by your comments, Chris. I'm a blessed man, okay? What I mean by that is this June will mark 35 years that I've had the privilege of living in this township. And the list goes on. Joe Maurer, Karen Weiss, law enforcement that I feel safe in my township, in my home, municipal workers that are the envy. It's actually kind of funny when I talk to friends that don't live here about our tax structure and our municipal workers, and they can't believe it. Well, I can. I've lived here for 35 years. And I know that my house, when I list it, it'll sell quickly on my street. With one caveat. If the changes aren't made, Chris, I'm going to have to instruct my realtor, who's my daughter-in-law, not to show the house during baseball games. I'm a Little League father. I get it. I've walked through that park millions of times during Little League games. And the problem that I've had, Chris, and for the rest of you folks, is that the announcements are fine. But for the past year or so, maybe you can help me with that, Adam. It seems that when they're either preparing the field or getting ready before a game, they're blasting music. You said it was loud, Chris. Relative term. It's actually ear-splitting to the point where it drives us back into our homes where you can't really sit outside. So I'm wondering if, and I am encouraged with your comments, Chris. I think there's got to be a middle ground. We want it. Little League, our sports teams are vital to us. But there's got to be a compromise solution, and I'm thinking maybe tone down the decibel level a little bit, not so much maybe for me as much as for Adam. And by the way, when I do go in, I have two thoughts. One is, I hate that song they're playing now. And number two is, I sure am glad I don't live up the street where these folks, where my neighbors live. I'm about 3 houses down from Bell Road. So again, at the risk of sounding redundant and beating a dead horse, for me, it's not so much the announcements, which I get, it's the joy that they have, which is not my joy when they are blasting loud music, maybe when they're preparing the fields, which I don't quite get. But anyway, thank you for the great job you guys are doing and for whatever you can do for us to help us create quality of life, continued quality of life on our street. We would appreciate. Bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Appreciate it. Additional comments from the audience?
Good evening. I'm Susan Robinson. I haven't actually officially met you. I'm the president of the Little League. Very nice to meet you.
Susan Robinson.
Susan Robinson. I live in Plymouth Township, 59 Traverse Drive, and I am headed into my second year as the Plymouth Little League president. So last season was my first season as the president. I've been part of the league for about 5 years. And so I have just a quick little handout for you guys, just to give you a sense of where we are as a league.
Thank you.
So I will absolutely address the speaker situation and give you an update on it. But just wanted to give you guys just a sense of what we're doing in the park. This is going to be our 65th anniversary season. We've been around a long time, and currently we're serving children ages 4 through 18. Those teenagers are still children, and we're providing programming for them. We have 554 children from this community signed up to play baseball and softball this season. I am amazingly fortunate to be surrounded by an unbelievable crew of volunteers. We are a 100% volunteer organization. I have 33 people that serve alongside me on our board, and we have over 150 community members signed up to be coaches and assistant coaches this season. So there's tremendous stuff happening in that park. As for the speaker situation, we have acknowledged that there was a perfect storm last season that did not play out the way we wanted it to. When we arrived to open up the park last year at this time, we discovered that our speaker system on field 1, which is our softball field, had been stolen in the off season. And then during the season, one of the speakers on field 2 started to smoke, and it was on its last leg anyway. We disconnected that system. We did replace the speaker system with a better system. And one of the speakers, the one that was installed on field 2, came into us broken. We did not know that when we installed it. You learn that when you install it and try and run it. So it had a buzz to it that caused us to have to turn the volume up more. These are not things that are come up and down easily. We have a bucket truck that comes in to install these. So it was noted, again, we had community members along with Mr. Monero who walked around. We have acknowledged all the time that the whole way through this, that the speaker was too loud. The speaker, we also said it was going to get replaced. It has been replaced. Okay, the broken speaker is gone. We have not had a chance to test the new speaker because it was installed very early in the morning. So we did not want to get it up and running. This was late July. My volunteers dispersed. We're exhausted by the end of July, so we have not had a chance to test the new speaker. That is coming. Probably not this Saturday, but the following Saturday prior to our opening day. The other piece that contributed to this is that we have only used these speakers for our district season. We did not use them for championship games. We did not use them during the regular season. Our district run was historic, which is great news for the league. We had 5 district teams compete in our district tournament this year. All 5 went to the championship and won the district banner, which meant we had the most possible home district games that could have been scheduled. So we played 11 district games across 10 nights in the span of 22 days. So it did feel like a lot. It was a lot. I was there every single night. It's not common for 5 teams to reach a championship game. So that was pretty much what we were seeing was the max possible home games we could host during district season. So again, we were dealing with a broken speaker. We were dealing with many more games than we were accustomed to. We do plan to move the speaker. We are at an impasse right now because we cannot put a truck on the fields. They are too soft. If we put a truck on the fields, we will destroy the outfield and we will require sod. That is an expenditure that the township and the league cannot manage. So because we haven't had a freeze where we can put a truck on the field this winter, we have to wait for the fields to dry out. And we are the same position with replacing lights. We have a light company, because the township has a light company coming in to replace lights, and we are in the same holding pattern. We cannot put a truck on that field. So our plan is to test the new speaker. Presumably the new speaker works properly, and we can reduce the volume. We plan to use the speakers and just to give you a clear sense of when we use the speakers. We use the speakers on opening day. We do not use the speakers for regular season games. We use the speakers for championship games. We run about 4 championship games in the first week of June. And we use the speakers for district season, which starts mid-June and runs to mid-July. what I want to make sure we're clear on is to not conflate us, Plymouth Little League, with the Spartans, the football club. So while this petition was getting passed around, that was during Spartan season.
No. I just.
I'm just gonna, interaction between the audience doesn't occur, so if we just let Ms. Robinson address council first, please, thank you.
Yes, we had some members of our league who were asked to sign it. And Spartan season, the Spartans have a completely separate sound system. We have no control, we have no access to it. It's much larger than ours. And I'm not here to comment on Spartans, but what I want to make clear is not all sound from East Plymouth Valley Park is coming from Plymouth Little League. We're pretty clear about when we use it. And we're happy to be very transparent and provide dates for when we use it. And yeah, so that's where we are. We do plan on, we have a plan to, we can either raise the speaker up and point it down. So it's currently in an outfield, we can raise it up and point it down. We also have a plan to look at moving it to a different pole. So it's on the third base side, pointing towards first base. I'm not sure if that helps you guys if you don't really have orientation of the field. But again, we need to be able to get a truck on the field, and then we're going to move it and test it. It does require turning it on and testing it. And we do commit to walking, not just testing it from home plate, but walking behind and checking out the sound from the neighborhood. So we are not ignoring this problem. We are not saying that there's no problem. We are acknowledging this. We are taking accountability for it, and we do have a plan of action moving forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Mr. Robinson, just to clarify some dates here. So the opening day is April 1st. That's
April
a Saturday.
1st.
Saturday
Yep.
morning.
We will use
late
it
morning.
from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
And at some point before April 1st, you'll test it, I assume,
The
correct?
plan right now is the Saturday before.
Okay. And then you don't expect that you'd be using the speakers after April 1st until early June. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Yeah, so championship weekend is the weekend. It's like it's sandwiches Plymouth Township Day. So like very early June. And that all, sometimes the dates get pushed due to weather, but
When you test it before the 1st, I assume that you'll first test it on that pole or you'll raise it or wherever. Well, you can't, I guess, because you can't get the trucks on the field. But
So, yeah.
the speaker will be tested where it's at currently.
Correct.
But if it's deemed to still be an issue, there is another alternative, potentially moving the speaker away from the outfield and moving it down the third baseline.
And what I honestly anticipate, just looking at weather and what I anticipate is we're going to test this thing with where the speaker is with the plans that we should not have to have it as loud, like with a fully operational speaker. It will probably need to run for opening day at where it is. And again, I'm giving you those dates and those times. And then to actually get the bucket truck on and move the speaker, physically move it, either up that pole or to the third base pole, will happen before we use it again for championship games.
Excuse me, can you address the idea of the music being broadcast before the games begin? I mean, is that something that you've discussed? Is there a possibility of eliminating that? I know, Chris, you've spoken about making it special for the kids, which I totally can understand that, but I don't see the music prior to the game beginning makes it, a more special baseball experience.
So music during when they're starting the field. I mean, especially during district season when we are prepping the field, that happens well before. That happens usually during the daytime, not actually prior to the game. Our grounds guys are usually there during the day. And that is, I would say, not typical. That I have not encountered a situation where they're prepping the field without children there. Now, when the kids are warming up, that piece, the warm-ups prior to the game, is pretty standard to play music. It is. The other thing I would love for you to, first of all, I would love for you to come on out to one of these district games. They are amazing. We attract. I mean, we can very easily. I know Mr. Monero has been there. We easily have 100 to 200 people there. It's not just kids playing on a field, and like, we turn out. I mean, it's a really amazing thing to see in our community. The community really turns out for these games to support these kids who are wearing Plymouth on their jerseys. So yes, it is common to play music during warm-ups, but not during field maintenance when there's not children present.
And I can't verify with Mr. Connolly's comment whether that has happened or not, but perhaps maybe just a reminder.
Yeah, I mean, I
to them that-
absolutely can put protocol in place to say not until team warm-ups start. Can we?
'Cause, I mean, earlier in the day is one thing, but babies napping and waking up screaming because of loud music is something to consider too. Thank you.
So, like, how many hours then between announcing all the children's names and playing music throughout? How many hours total are you taking up during the day? And is it done in the evening as well, or?
Yeah,
you
so
said you have
just to
lights
give you
there?
a sense, the district games, I went back and collected the times of all the district games from last season. They all begin at either 6 or 7. We had one that began at 8. That was unusual. It was pushed back due to rain. There was a rain delay on that one. And we had one unique situation last year where we had to stack 2 games. On Monday, June 27th, we did play a game at 6. And then stacked a game at 8. So that had to do with our teams. Those were 2 championship games, and so they ended up having to get stacked there. Warm-ups will start about 30 minutes prior to the game, and then games last 1.5 to 2 hours.
But there wouldn't be a need for music between, if there's music playing while they're warming up, so 30 minutes before the game, and some announcements, I imagine they're announcing starting
Yeah,
players
Little
and
League lays
whatnot.
out exactly what it's all scripted, what we say before district games.
But if a game starts at 7, for example, so from 6:30 to 7, there might be some music, but then after 7, there's not music? I mean, they're not playing music during the game then, right?
Typically, there's music played and announcements made between innings. That's not Plymouth Little League. That's like, if you go to any game from any league around the area, that's generally how a baseball or softball game is carried out. But the between inning, you're talking 3 minutes, like not even a full song. But we don't play music while the kids are playing.
Sure, no.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then is there music at the end of the game too? While kids are packing up and leaving? But how late are you going with music? How late at night? Because you start a game at 7 or 8 p.m., last a couple of hours. I'm just wondering about the people with the little kids, And as Ms. Bandish said, little kids take naps in the middle of the day.
Well, we're never playing music in the middle of the day. We only operate between the hours during the week, between the hours of 5:30 and the lights in the park go out at 10 o'clock. You can't have anyone in the park by 10 o'clock. There's a hard stop on that park. And then on Saturdays, we're up and running for most of the day, and then we're down on Sundays. There's some travel teams that use the fields on Sundays, but we're usually done and out. Like, if a game ends at 9:30, like, we want people out of the park. So no, we're not like hanging around and partying afterwards.
Saturday then, there's music all day and
No.
all the way into the night then.
No, we do not use the speaker system during our rec season when we're just playing rec games. We didn't even have the speaker system during our rec season last year. The speakers were installed just prior to district season last year. So we are acknowledging this was absolutely, district season runs from mid-June to mid-July. This was absolutely an issue during district season. But we do not run these speakers for just our normal, regular season games. We have lots of people in the park. On a typical Saturday, we'll see at least 1,000 people run through that park. with games starting at about 8:30 and ending on a Saturday. They end somewhere around 5, maybe 6.
Anything else?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions you guys might have.
And do you have traveling teams, or that's separate from Little League?
I'm sorry, say it
You
again.
said traveling teams use it on Sundays, is that
So we
separate
are-
from y'all?
Great question. Our league, we have some travel teams that are not technically affiliated with Plymouth Little League. We support them because they are all Plymouth kids. So we extend our park permits to them. They are specifically teams that are serving the Plymouth community.
And do they use your speaker system too?
They have not,
Sundays?
because this system was not up. And again, I can put, right now, they have no access to the speaker system. Until we get this, I want to be clear that until we get this situation sorted out, our intended use is for opening day, championship games, and district season.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Roberts, appreciate it.
Can I make a suggestion? About
Yeah,
this?
just need to come to the phone,
The
please.
speaker placement, they put the speakers close to the houses in the outfield, which is close to all the houses. It's like the property line park. That's where they put the speaker. All the people are sitting up by the infield. Why wouldn't they put two little speakers up by the infield so they can announce, so they're not announcing to the entire neighborhood? They can keep it in the park.
I think that was one of the ideas that was mentioned, is to move the speaker to the third base side, if the spot where it's at continues to be an issue. Any additional audience participation tonight?
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Conboy. I've been a resident in Plymouth Township for 20 years at 1013 Belvoir Road. I also sit on the Environmental Advisory Board, and I run a small nonprofit in the Plymouth Township, White Marsh, Norristown, Conshohocken areas, doing natural lands restoration, tree planting, invasive species removal. I just wanted to thank you all for your role in continuing to fund tree planting efforts and greening efforts in Plymouth Township. I work closely with Parks and Rec and Rick Carbo, and each spring and fall for the last 3 or 4 years, the township has funded trees. This spring, we're planting 10 at East Plymouth Valley Park. This will be the first time we're planting there, so we're excited to plant some new trees in there, and it's the most popular park in the township, so that's good. But we'll be planting April 23rd and some in Harriet Wetherill Park as well this spring. And like I said, 10 of those trees were funded by the township. So we'll have a volunteer event April 23rd from 9:30 to noon. I would like to invite any of you or anyone interested. It's usually a great time, but thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate all your work. So that's April 23rd at Harriet Wetherill Park, 9:30 to noon.
This will be at East Plymouth Valley.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yep. Additional audience participation? Anything else from council? Meeting adjourned.